Hey, everybody. Jay Niblick here again with Brian Arzani. Hey, Brian.
Stop.
10 minutes to profitability, our new format, cutting it down from 20 minutes to 10 because y'all said you don't want to even take 20 minutes to get profitable because you're too busy. And Brian made the point on the last video. That's awesome because that means we're getting in front of the right people that don't want to sit around and theorize for days, which is one of the reasons they're not profitable. So we're going to give you 10 minutes to help give a singular tip on how to become a more profitable independent management consultant / coach. Then you got to go sell some shit because in the end, that's how you make money. Go servicing more clients. Last video, we just talked about how you differentiate yourself out of the 700,000 other people that are competing with you in this market space here in the United States alone. Very much the same in the European Union and so forth. But we talked about when you make that initial discussion, somebody says, what do you do? You know, and so Brian and I both gave examples. Go watch that video. Subscribe down below at intermetrics.com to watch the rest of the videos and be emailed every week. We're coming out with 1 or 2, depending on the week. All about education based. We're not pitching anything. We want you guys to be successful. Today we're talking about, now that that worked, you've got the initial meeting. How do you differentiate yourself from the other 700,000 or in your neck of the woods, 1 to 2,000 consultants, depending on the size of your city, who live in your metro area, who want that same business? How do you make yourself different? Brian, you got the 30-minute meeting. You got the 45-minute meeting with Mr. Jones or Mrs. Smith. What do you do to not look like the other schmucks that come walking in the door so you can actually get the business?
Well, here's what's so crazy. A lot of times folks will walk into their first meeting and they'll sit there and go, man, I can't wait because these folks are just going to open up to me. They're going to tell me everything. And reality is that's probably not going to happen. There's some skill sets. There's the ability to understand trust. We're not here today to talk about that. But I think, Jay, you do a great job you talk about this concept of the spotlight. When we go into a meeting, the only way that we can run the diagnostic sales process effectively and appropriately is to, first of all, check in with our own intentions and make sure that we're walking into the meeting with the right intent. And so when we look at this example of, and I think if every one of you watching this video right now can maybe put this as a mental picture in your mind before you go into a meeting with a potential client or a prospect, having this in your mind's eye, it will allow you to be more effective. So imagine this, right? We talk about the spotlight is on the prospect. Imagine going to like a school play or a Broadway production or a musical of any kind, and you think about this. You ask yourself, who's in charge of that event, right? Who's in charge of the audience's attention and all that kind of stuff? And some folks will say it's the orchestra conductor. Some folks will say it's the man, whatever, it's the lead character or whoever it is who's talking. When in reality, it's actually the little dude in the very back who has access to that spotlight. Because wherever that light goes, that's where the attention of the audience goes. And imagine being at one of those events and all of a sudden the stage goes dark and people hear some ruckus in the back and we all turn around and look and all of a sudden there's the dude back there running the spotlight. What he's done is he's flipped the spotlight 180 degrees and he's sitting there on the wall making like little shadow puppets on the wall going, isn't that cool? See, what we find is a lot of folks have been trained. That's what you do when you show up. It's about you making sure you tell them how amazing you are so that you have a credible story so that then ultimately the person that you're talking to will open up. When in reality, that's not how trust is built. Trust is built on the side of the equation where sharing occurs. And if we keep that spotlight on them and our intentions and our mouth and our message are aligned, right, with regards to what we're doing, we're here to, and as Jay talks about, is when you wrote the book, The Profitable Consultant, right, the person that identifies the problem earns the right to fix it. So that's where our intent is at when we go in.
And that's the topic today. He or she who identifies the cause of the problem gets to fix it. Yep. Here's how you differentiate yourself from the other 700,000, right? Or the 1,000 or 2,000 in your neck of the woods. And that's what it is, right? We had 622 cities in the metropolitan U.S. that are larger than 50,000 people. If you live in a city with more than 50,000 people, divide 700,000 by 622, because that's how many cities there are. 100,000 or more, there's only 311 in the entire U.S. So if you live in a city with 100,000 or more, divide 700,000 by 311. It's about 1,124 people, if I remember right, from a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's your competition. I'm trying to make this really serious because you got to figure this out. You wonder why you're not getting enough business. There's a lot of people that want the same business. You're fishing in the same hole. Even if you don't see them, they're there. It's like fishing in a blind and you can't see however many other boats are out there and how many guys are standing around with their line in the water. There's a lot of women and a lot of men competing with you. So you've got to think differentiation. It's one of the most important things you can do. When you get that initial meeting, Here's the key: diagnostic sales process. Read the diagnostic sales process. It's talking about, I leave the house with the intent of thinking like a physician. Okay. When I see that doctor, she doesn't want to just show off of all the stuff that she went to school for. She doesn't talk about any of that. There's one spotlight when I walk in that room, and it's on me, the patient, driving to this meeting or getting ready to get on the phone. Think about them like a physician. Seek to identify the cause of their problem. That's all you got to do. I'm telling you, it's that simple. Stop talking about yourself. Walk in the door and say, what's not working? What is the thing that keeps you up at 2 o'clock at night? Like we talked about, you gave an example of that when you got this meeting, and then seek to identify the cause of that. And so that's one of the things that when we teach you how to use the diagnostics process and the tools, those tools are, do I need to give them blood work, an MRI, an X-ray, a CT, a PET scan, a functional MRI, all the different tools that we have. What are those diagnostic tools that I need to use to figure out that problem? So it becomes talking about their pain points. It becomes talking about what we call the power source. Because at some point down the road, you're going to give them a call to action. Take this action, sign this contract. Action requires energy. A good salesperson understands what's powering that energy. How big is the pain? How much money is the pain causing them? One of the things that we often see is people don't ever stop to think about the real dollar sign. And there's always a dollar sign and an emotional sign around the power source, the pain source. But again, I like to call it power source because I want to know how big a call to action can I give them down the road. If the person says it's a $50,000 problem, I better not give them a $20,000 proposal. There's no way that's going to happen. If we identify, you've got massive turnover in this division. This one manager has rampant turnover, not quite sure why. What is it about that manager? You see some symptoms. People are saying they micromanage, they don't delegate, they're mean, they don't have any emotional intelligence or empathy. Those are the symptoms. Even a 360 says that's what everybody thinks about them. But what is it about that individual? Why are they limping? I can't see inside their knee. Why does it hurt? I need to see it. I need to diagnose it. That's what our tools do. That's the thing that you want to get to. But the first stop is people don't go, how big a problem is this? So when you walk in the door seeking to understand the problem, the spotlight's on them. As Brian said, it's not me having a 30-minute show up and, here's all the things that I'm great at. Figure out what's not working. And your only proposal, and we'll talk about proposals next week, is how do I figure out what really is causing this problem? It's way too early to talk about me coming in and doing strategic planning or sales consulting or training or coaching or any of that stuff. I don't make those proposals. I never make them up front. I've got to say, here's what's broken. Here's what's not working. Here's what's causing the problem. And remember what I said, we diagnose and solve human capital issues. We're talking about one specific human capital issue. I have to diagnose it in that sentence before I can talk about solving it. So price on solving, what's the solution? None of that matters right now. And I tell people, I have no idea till I figure out what's causing the problem that you tell me keeps you up at 2 o'clock at night. That's the initial sale. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, and I think here's a couple of real quick points. Okay, so let's say we do have anything that they discuss or we talk about, we got to find that power source. And here's some questions that I think just write down real quick here. So how long has it been an issue, right? Or how long has it been an opportunity? Because it could be one or the other. And what have you done in the past to try to work on that, right? Or fix it? And how did you come up with it, right? It's another good question. And then here's another great question. What happens if nothing changes, right? Well, it happens. Let's fast forward 6 months. Let's fast forward, a year, and everything stays exactly the way it is, whatever it is. And these are ways that we truly keep the spotlight on them, because it's so easy for us to go in and go, well, let me tell you, I could do this, or we could schedule this tomorrow, versus really exploring that to figure out, is this really a power source, or is it just a smoke screen, or is it just a twinge in the back that if I, I'll be okay. So, how long has it been an issue? What have you done to try to fix it in the past? How did it work? Other than you, who else is having this conversation? If nothing changes and you move forward 6 months, a year, and nothing, is it going to be?
And put an emotion on it. Besides the dollar sign, which is great. And it actually starts to become the first consulting you do to them, because most of the time they haven't slowed down to really process, wait, if it's three times personnel salary and we lost 12 people last year, wow, I didn't really realize how big a problem this is. But get the emotions, what are the emotions tied to it? And if it's really keeping you up at 2 o'clock at night, how's it affecting you professionally? But, how's that affect you? Here's what he's talking about. And we're going to wrap this up. Sorry to cut you off, Brian.
No, you're good. We're almost at 10, baby.
A lot of times people are guilty of lazy ass selling. I'm sorry, I don't mean to insult you, but I'm
LAS, baby. LAS.
You got to work. You got to do the digging and diagnose it first. So this is tough and it takes a lot of time. Go sell some shit.